Hey, it's Kelly from MXHideout. Got another project here. One of these sweet CRF230s. It's leaking fuel. It's not running the greatest. So if you want to learn how I troubleshoot and diagnose and get these bikes to run better than new, follow along with me, because what you're seeing for the first time in this video, I'm seeing as well. Now, I already test rode it when I bought the bike, and I turned on the petcock. The fuel wasn't leaking, but after riding it for a few minutes and I left the fuel on, shut the engine off, it started leaking out of the carb overflow. So I'm guessing something on the float needle and seat, there's a speck of dirt or something. So we're gonna test ride it again, see if we can replicate that problem, and then probably pull the carb apart and see what's going on in there. A previous owner put on these butt ugly plastics that don't even fit. So we'll do a cold start, gas on, choke on, key, see if it starts up. Fired up right away, that's nice. Doesn't sound too bad. Exhaust smells a little bit funny. I'm guessing it's some old gas. We'll turn the choke all the way off. Oh, now it's not running. Turn the choke half on again. Battery sounds a little bit weak. So it's idling higher. Turn the choke off. Oh no, wait, sorry. Backwards. Turn the choke off all the way down. I had it on. Okay, so I turned it too far in. Seems to be idling okay. Let's see how it revs. A little bit of a bog. I'm guessing I'll have to change the jetting, especially if it's original. It's an 03. First year it came out, but they haven't really changed since they discontinued it in 2019. Okay, it doesn't sound that far off actually. Maybe just a touch lean. Yeah, it's still bogging when I whack open the throttle. I'm guessing it still has the baffle in because it doesn't feel quite as responsive. Sorry, the snorkel, the airbox snorkel. When you remove that, you get a little bit more torque, more snap when you whack the throttle. And when I'm whacking the throttle here, it bogs, so I'm guessing the pilot jet circuit is lean. Now there was a lean bog. Hear that? It's bogging on the low end, and that is almost always going to be the pilot jet circuit, especially if the carburetor doesn't have an accelerator pump. When it bogs, it dies out like that, like you're hitting the kill switch. Oh, it's not even working. That is the pilot jet, because that controls idle or closed throttle to roughly quarter turn throttle response, or low RPM. But if you raise the RPM up a little bit while you're cruising, it's not going to bog as easily. It's just when you go from idle or just above idle to full throttle quickly. You whack open the throttle and then it might go, otherwise you might have to let off the throttle a little bit. See, I went full throttle quickly and then backed off to like half or 3/4 throttle. And it goes again. Alright, let's go see if this carb will leak when I shut the engine off. Alright, still got the gas on, got the carb overflow right here, and it's not leaking, so I'm guessing it was just some crud stuck on the float needle and seat, and maybe it cleared out. But either way, we're going to take this apart and see what it has for jets. While we're at it, maybe we'll take the spark plug out and see how that looks. Here is a good example of contradicting symptoms. So the spark plug, while isn't terrible, it looks pretty dark, which means rich generally when reading a spark plug. But when test riding it, we felt that lean bog right off of idle. So which is it, rich or lean? This is why I like to use my sounds and symptoms tuning method, because spark plug reading isn't always the most accurate. Modern fuels today, at least in the US, there's so many additives like ethanol, it's hard to get an accurate reading on just the color of the spark plug. With that said, this could be black from running rich from something else. It could be the main jet causing it to run rich. It could be a dirty air filter. It could be from the carb flooding over from that float needle and seat leaking, so the fuel level's higher, causing it everywhere to run rich. But now it's not, and sometimes it can take a while for the spark plug to change colors. So it could have been rich a few hours ago riding, but now the bike is actually running lean, and that's why carb tuning can be confusing if you're only looking at the spark plug. So I'm going to put this back in, I'm going to get the carb tuned, and we'll see how the symptoms are after that. Alright, we got this 42 Pilot Jet. I believe the previous owner, or a previous owner, put a carb rebuild kit in it, and this is must have what came with it. So I know that the CRF230 likes to run better in most climates when it has a 45 Pilot Jet. So we're going to swap this out. I'm also going to pull the main jet out, which is a 102. And that's going to be too lean, especially with the snorkel removed from the air box, so we'll swap that out. And since the float was leaking, I'm just going to pull this off. Oop, there goes the plastic thing. I'm going to pull the needle off, make sure that and the seat are clean. Now here's an example why I took the float and needle off to look at the seat of the needle. You can see, I'm going to try and put this picture up here, that there's some junk around where the needle sits. Because you can see the needle here, it's cone shaped, so as the fuel fills up, that pushes this needle into the seat, and if there's crud on the needle here itself or the seat, that means it's not going to be perfectly sealed, and more fuel is going to be leaking into the carb, causing it to run rich and eventually leak out the overflow hose. So what I like to do is take a Q-tip, put some cleaning solution on it, whether it's Simple Green or whatever, or right now I'm just going to use brake cleaner, and then stick it up in there, wipe it around, spin it around. The dirtier it is, the longer it'll take. It can take anywhere from 10, 20, 30 seconds to a minute or more. And this is essentially just polishing that seat so that it's clean. There's no debris that's going to get stuck between it and the needle. Alright, we're going to go with the 45 Pilot Jet here. And then a 115 main jet. Make sure this needle is clean. Slide it back on the float. Put the float back on. Make sure the needle doesn't fall off the float tab. Slide the float pin back in. Float height looks pretty good. Put that plastic baffle on, even though I don't think it really needs it. It's not staying on very well. I get the float bowl and screws back on. Now pop the carb back in the boots. Tighten them up. Now we'll turn the gas back on. Give it a minute. Oh! I guess the fuel line came off when I messing with the carb. Make sure the fuel line's still on. Hello, rookie mistake. Now the engine still a little bit warm. It's cooled off a little bit. We'll try it with no choke. Should start easier. I'm guessing it'll be a little bit rich on the top end, which I'll show you what I have plans for in just a minute. So I took a couple cranks, not too bad. Not surprised because it's a little bit cooled down. I reset the fuel screw. It was 2 1/4 turns out, I believe, which means they were compensating a little bit on the rich side. That's why I went to a bigger Pilot. Now it's at 1 1/2, and we'll see if I need to tune it from there based on how it sounds and feels when riding it. The 45 Pilot Jet and the 115 main. Go up to the 4th gear. still ain't fast, but it definitely has more get up and go. It's more responsive. Still a little bit lean off the bottom. I'm gonna do one more thing to try and increase the power for free. See how she starts when it's hot. Ooh, not that great actually. Should have fired off right away. We'll try it with half choke. See if it starts easier. Oh, it's even worse. Okay, try the choke off. Maybe it's too rich now. Let's give it a little bit of throttle, crack it. Ooh. She might be running too rich now. Just as I suspected. See this? Throw that out. Look at all this air we can get in there now. There was only just 2 tiny holes there. More potential power. As long as you're jetted for it. All right, got the snorkel off. See how she runs. Second, third, fourth. Sounds a little bit healthier. But we still got to dial in that fuel screw so it starts easily. Yeah, I can hear it. The sound is a little bit throatier. More air is being sucked in. So we're gonna go try and dial in that fuel screw, see if it's actually rich or lean, just to confirm. Because there's just a little bit of a bog right off of idle when you smack it. Yeah, like that. I see the problem here. I see why it's running rich. It's leaking out the overflow hose. So there's still something wrong, something dirty in the carb, causing it to leak gas out the overflow. Let's try standing it up, see if that makes a difference. Because if it's standing up and it stops leaking, it might just be the float height. And it looks like it stopped. Let's lean it back over on the kickstand. Ah, it's the float height. Yeah, maybe. Stand it back up. Yeah, it stops. That looks like a float height issue. Oh, no, it's still leaking. Interesting. Let's take the bowl off and test the float height to see if it actually is stopping the gas flow. All right, I got the float bowl off, and we're gonna do a neat little test here. So what I'm gonna do, the gas is off right now. I'm gonna turn it on, and I'm gonna manually raise the float. And when I do that, if it completely shuts off the fuel supply from the needle and seat right here, if it does that every single time I push it up, that means it's good. The needle and seat are still good, and I simply just need to lower the float height. However, if when I push it up and it always leaks, or it sometimes leaks, even when I'm pushing it up all the way, that means the needle and seat are dirty or worn out, and I'm gonna take this carb all the way off. So pay attention to this needle and seat area here. I am going to hold this up, and I'm gonna turn on the gas now. So the gas is on. It shouldn't be leaking out. So I'm gonna lower this, and gas should start leaking out. There we go. Okay, I'll put it back up, and gas is not leaking. So I'm just gonna keep doing that a few times. There you can see is a problem. It's not leaking as much, but there's still a drip even when I have it up. My suspicion is that the gas tank is dirty, or the petcock is dirty, and it's causing dirt, sediment, junk, whatever it is, to keep going down through the fuel line and into the carb and keep getting specks of dirt on the needle and seat. So occasionally it washes out and cleans it so it can seal properly, but then more dirt and junk keep going through and they get stuck on the needle and seat. So we're going to pull this carb out, give it a good ultrasonic cleaning, pull the tank off, clean the petcock, make sure Everything is clean in there, and then we're going to put it back on and see if it works properly. See, it's still dripping there even when the float is up. It's not leaking a lot, but it's enough to cause problems to keep slowly filling the float bowl up and causing it to run rich and eventually leak out that overflow hose. Well, I got this petcock loose here, so let's pull it out, see what it looks like. Yeah, that is pretty nasty. This whole thing is supposed to be filter, even up here, but it's gone. Look at how nasty that is. All this junk is just slowly working itself through the fuel line and into the carbs. So that is going to be our culprit for why you get the inconsistent flooding issue. All this junk is going on the needle and seat, sticking to it, and more just comes through and gets it all dirty. So we're going to have to replace this. I'm wondering if I can just get this replacement piece. And ideally, you want to get an inline fuel filter, put one like right here. That'll help prevent any junk from getting to the carb as well. I tried to see if this was a replaceable part, but it doesn't look like it. And I found just a whole new one for like 10-12 bucks. It had decent reviews, so why not replace the whole thing, get a new filter, fuel line plus a cheap fuel filter. I don't know how much it'll do, but having a fuel filter is really nice, especially if you're using pump gas, just to protect the carb from getting gunk built up in it or just dirt from the gas tank. So here's a quick comparison of before, after. Doesn't even look like the same part. Get this O-ring on, fuel line. Get one of these hose clamps on here. Now if we just go by the original fuel length, this is more than enough, and we got 2 of these. So we can actually cut this, put this in there, and then use the rest of it to go onto the carb. So I got a pair of snips here. Just make sure you get a straight cut. And make sure you put it on the right way. So we want the fuel going into there, the open end, and then it'll filter through the paper and go out that end. Put this hose clamp on first, then the fuel filter. Get some pliers to gently work it on there. Past the first rib. So look at that, this cheap Chinese junk. Make sure there's no debris, just chunks of plastic there. We don't want that floating into our carb. So I'm just gonna snip this off here. I got a deburring tool from my machining job. We'll see if that works a little bit better. Yeah, not really. It's kind of just pushing it instead of cutting it. So we'll get a razor blade. That's a little better. Now we can take this, shove it on the fuel filter, and get another hose clamp, slide it on. You can go a little bit longer, so we'll cut it right there. Now we can bolt it onto the tank, clean the surface up so it's nice and clean, so it'll seal properly. That's on there all the way with the O-ring. Grab your new bolt and spacer. Petcock actually works, or turns. Now it's ready to get thrown on the bike. Well, just as I suspected, pulled the carb apart and took the float needle off. You can see the little green specks and junk on the tip of the cone of that needle. That is from the petcock. More and more of that junk kept flowing through that fuel line and kept getting on this needle, so it was keeping that needle and seat open, so more and more gas would flow off and on. So we're going to clean this, re-clean the seat and the carb again. We got the petcock on. We just got some fresh fuel. Put that in and see how it runs. Alright, let's turn the gas on and watch it flow in the fuel filter. We'll turn the choke on, key on. Now let's see if it starts. That's good. Try it with the half choke. Sounds pretty good. Try it with the choke off. Got it fully warmed up. It runs almost great. It just has a little bit of a bog when you whack the throttle open quickly from idle. But the idle is consistent. It has good throttle response above that. If we can dial in the fuel screw to try and tune some of or most of that bog out, we'll be perfect. It'll be like fuel injection. Let's just try real quick to see how it starts when the engine is hot. Okay, yeah, that fires up nice and quick. Let's just tune that bog out. Went one whole turn richer on the fuel screw. Let's see how it goes. Let's turn the idle up a tad. Still boggy. Let's try going half a turn instead of 2.5. All right, it's at about half a turn out now. Idle's a little bit higher. It has a tiny bit of a hanging idle, so remember, it takes a second to settle back down. Let's try turning the idle down. You know what? I'm wondering if it's the needle. I think we need to change the needle clip position. Let's try that, because it's almost, I'm revving up half throttle. That might have something to do with it as well. I got the needle pulled out here. It's a C39A. I'm guessing that's original. So you can see it's in the third clip position, which is the middle. We're going to drop it down to the fourth position from the top, and that'll raise the needle up, make it richer. I just noticed that, I don't know if you can see it on the camera here, but there's some green stuff on the needle itself. That is from the old gas and the old petcock, just all that gummed up stuff which was getting on the needle and seat, and now it's coated on the actual needle jet. So cleaning this off might actually help as well, because you got material on here that it's making the diameter essentially bigger, although not much, but it doesn't take much to make a difference on the air fuel mixture, so that could be causing it to run leaner as well. All right, we changed the needle clip position and cleaned the needle. Let's see how it starts and runs. Oop. Sounds pretty good. Now maybe let it warm up for a minute here. Still a little boggy. Might need a richer main jet. I tried a couple more things and I think I've settled on a setting here. Oh, that's not good. Shouldn't be backfiring like that. That means it's getting too much fuel. Let's crack the throttle. Yeah, as I suspected, I kept going leaner and leaner, and that didn't help, so I went richer and richer, and it helped a little bit to a certain extent, and then I got too rich, and now I think it's still on the edge of being a little too rich. But let me go quick do a woods test to show you what I mean. Now the idle is too high. If the idle keeps changing, that's a sign that it's not jetted correctly. Woo! Yeah, I haven't been in here for a while. These woods need some work again. You hear that right off idle, that has it, that sputter. Oh, it didn't do it there. I'm trying to replicate it. But it's just little signs that you have to pay attention to know if it's rich or lean. And I'm trying to get it perfect. Try this now, made one more adjustment. Oh. No, it doesn't want to start. It's not good. What is going on here? Feels like it's getting too much gas now, even though I just went leaner. Try it again. Weird. Yeah, let's lean it over to see if the float height is still good. Still good there. I think I need to maybe look into the wiring of this thing. What's going on here? Because there's loose wires everywhere. Wonder if that has anything to do with it. And now it's not even wanting to start. This is different. It's like the choke is on. All right, fuel screw is 1.5 turns out. There's a bog, but I think it's rich now. But now I think I'm noticing that I think a lean bog, it's just instant bog, so just buh, buh. Where a rich bog on this is it kind of it's kind of a where the lean bog is just instant buh, So that was 1.5 turns out. Now we're at about 1/4 turn out. So not ideal, but I just want to see how it runs. Started pretty easily. Seems to be idling fine. Less of a bog. Man, it's almost gone. I think I might go down to a 42 pilot jet. We're at 42 pilot again, carb's all clean, and it seems like it's bogging a little bit more. Fuel screw's at 1.5 turns out. It wasn't bogging as much with the 45 pilot at about 1/2 or 1/4 turn out, so I'm thinking we went a little bit too lean now. Here's a quick and easy test that you can do if it's too rich or too lean. So it's bogging now. Turn the choke half on. Do the same test. It's a lot better. But if we leave the choke half on, then it's going to be too rich on the top end. So we know that it wants less air or more fuel. So we're going to try bumping up that pilot jet, maybe even up to a 48, and see what happens. So while I was pulling the pilot jet out, I decided might as well look at the fuel screw, because even though the previous owner said it was rebuilt, they even have a rebuild kit with the bike that I got, I was a little bit skeptical. So I pulled the fuel screw out, and the O-ring, which is important for proper operation, jetting fuel mixture. Wanted to look at this O-ring, make sure it was there first of all, and in the right order, and whether it was fresh or old, because if this is old or cracked, too hard, it's going to cause an air leak and make it run too lean. And this does not look like it was replaced recently. I've seen worse. There's still a little bit of softness to it, but it's old, it's kind of deformed, some discoloration, so I'm going to replace this. It might have a little bit to do with it running lean, but won't know for sure how much until we replace it and try again. So I just went from 1.5 to 1/2 turn out on the fuel screw to make it leaner. Even though I think I was already too lean, I just want to confirm that if it's worse, that means it was too lean. So it still starts up nice and easy when the engine's warm. But it's still pretty boggy, and it feels soft right off idle. So now we're going to try 2.5 turns out. Now we're at 2.5 turns out with the 42 pilot. May need to adjust the idle. Still starts easy, but as I suspected, the idle is a little bit lower because it's richer. Turn the idle up just a hair. Seems to be smooth. Still boggy though. Wondering if that diaphragm in there is worn out. Let's check that out. I see why I'm having problems again. Carb is leaking again out the overflow. So I'm gonna do what I should have done from the beginning, and that is take the carb all the way apart, put it in my cleaner, inspect every little piece, and put it back on. Because this thing needs a good cleaning anyway. Ugh. Trying to shortcut time, just doing the bare minimum, does not always cut it. All right, I got the carb pulled off here, pulled the float needle off again. There was a tiny bit of junk on there again, so I don't know if I need to take the fuel petcock off again, see if there's gas getting through that, or if it's just still junk floating around in this carb. I'm thinking it's mostly this, because I pulled this air cutoff valve diaphragm off and it looks to be original. You can see it kind of just eroding, flaking away here, so I'm guessing some of that is floating around in the carb, and hopefully that's all it is. I'm just gonna put it in my cleaner. Just ordered another one of these. It'll be here in a few days, because unfortunately that carb rebuild kit that whoever did this on the bike before, these do not come with it. It's basically just jets and needle and float gasket. We got this new air cutoff valve. Well, here's the old one, here's the new one. You can see it's deteriorating, so we'll swap this in along with this new seal here. Got the carb back on the bike here. Got some new fuel line because I didn't like that cheap fuel line that came with this petcock. So we'll turn the gas on. Turn the choke on. Hopefully this battery is still good. Fires up. We'll do half choke. We will turn the choke all the way off. Idling a little bit high here. That's pretty boggy. Well, we'll let it warm up and go for a test ride once it stops raining here. All right, one more test here. Seems to be running better, and I'll tell you what I did at the end of this here. Yeah, that seems to be better right off of idle. Yeah, it's still not perfect when you go full throttle, but I think it's actually too rich now. Alright, so I just adjusted the fuel screw from 3 turns out to 2, making it leaner, and what I did, without telling you, was I changed the pilot jet, and it's actually still a size 45. It's just a different pilot jet, and I'll explain that after I do this test. So it took a little bit longer to start there. It's not exactly what I want. It's idling higher, which is pretty typical from going leaner on the fuel screw. Trail test. Hopefully the trails are clear here. Starting to idle higher. It's kind of changing a little bit. Something is still off. The idle's going a little bit up and down. I don't like that. It has good power and throttle response everywhere except for right off of idle. Choke half off. Choke half on. Yeah, it feels weaker, so I think it's still a little bit too rich. Let's go try leaning out the fuel screw a little bit more. Went from 2 to 1 turn out on the fuel screw. Let's see if it starts easier. That starts easier. That's a good sign. Let's turn the idle down since it's leaner. So I think I've got this thing dialed in just about as good as I can get. The last couple adjustments I went leaner twice, and it's done better since. So with the idle and the throttle response right off of idle. So originally it was running too lean, but after getting the carb sorted out, getting it properly cleaned, fixing that air cutoff valve, fixing the petcock, getting rid of all the junk in there so that the needle and seat wouldn't stick, because that was intermittently causing it to flood out and run too rich. So now, once I got all that sorted out, it was just a matter of dialing in the jets, more specifically the pilot jet, which can be done easily by just tuning the fuel screw until it starts and runs right. So I could maybe even go a little bit leaner yet, but right now it's at 1 turned out. It starts easy. Watch. I'll shut it off, turn it on, fires up right away. When hot, good throttle response. So it still does die if you're at like near idle speed and you whack the throttle all the way open, but that's pretty much every carburetor, especially without an accelerator pump. So it's not very often you're going to be going like this from idle, but if you just raise the RPM up just a little bit and then whack it, that's good throttle response. Or if you just roll it on, it's going to run great. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention that at the end, when I changed pilot jets, I went from a 45 to a 45. No, it's not what you think. The other one wasn't dirty. It was actually brand new. I went from the brand new Pro X brand 45 pilot jet to a used, genuine Kean 45 pilot jet. Knowing that it was running rich, I may have been able to get it tuned with that Pro X 45 pilot, but after changing to the Kean, it did run a little bit differently. And I say that because I felt it, but also when looking through that pilot jet, I know it's hard to tell visually, but I have a fairly good eye for sizes just because of my machining background. I can notice small differences compared to just the average person. So it looked like the Kean 45 was slightly bigger, at least the main through hole. The diameter was bigger than the Pro X jet. And normally I recommend the Pro X jets because I've been able to use them without really any problem. Their sizes have been accurate and the bikes I've been able to tune great with them. I'm not a fan of the cheap Chinese jets that you can get on Amazon or eBay for like $10 for 20 jets. I don't really trust those because those are going to be even more inconsistent with the sizes. But I will say that still going with the genuine Kean or Mikuni jets, whatever carb you have, is always going to be the best option. I've been using a lot of the Pro X jets the past few years. Just because they're a lot cheaper than the genuine ones, and I buy a lot more of them because I'm tuning a lot of carbs, so it saves money, and I've been getting the bikes to run well with them. But in this instance, the sizing seemed to be a little bit different, so just take that into caution. You might be able to get an aftermarket jet to work, but the genuine brand jets are always going to be the most consistent and easiest to tune. I adjusted the fuel screw again at half a turnout, and it runs about the same, if not better, so it could maybe even go down a pilot jet size. But this bike is running good, ready to go. Well, besides cleaning it, doing a little bit more TLC, this is ready to go for the next new owner who's going to be super excited. This is an awesome trail bike, beginner bike, casual trail bike, super reliable, easy, fun to ride. I really like these bikes. I wouldn't even mind keeping this for a backup. If you want to get your carb tuned by me, you live near Oak Grove, Minnesota, click the link in the description below to my website. Fill out that form. If you'd like to learn my signs and symptoms tuning method in a step-by-step manner, I have a full course for 2 strokes and 4 strokes. Otherwise, you can get started for free with my 5-minute fuel screw tuning method. Alright, got this cleaned up a little bit. Now it's pretty much ready to go. I'm just gonna go for one last try, just to kind of enjoy it. Cold start. Maybe it's not perfectly ready to go. Interesting. Go half choke again. Maybe the idle's just too low. Oh, this battery sounds really weak. Yep. I think we need a new battery. Ah. Alright, I figured out the problem. It was low on gas. Just need to turn it on reserve, but we still need a new battery. So let's go for a quick trail ride. Busters on. I don't want to slap my hands on that. Woo. Sloppy right now. Haven't ridden much lately. So I'm really loose. fun. Bring them out, and they don't have too much power, but they have enough for the woods of Minnesota. Just float around on their pogo stick suspension. So smooth, even if you full throttle. They just get traction even with terrible tires. I'm more worried about the front end losing traction than the rear. Got a stick. Woo. Twisting the throttle. How to tune your carb, or you want it tuned. If you live near Oak Grove, Minnesota, you can drop your bike off. Otherwise, I have a complete jetting program with some... I forgot about this tree again. Let's just ride over it. There. Yeah, I got a complete jetting program for 2 strokes and 4 strokes with some one-on-one coaching available. Otherwise, if you want to get started for free, I have a free air screw and fuel screw tuning guide where you can learn how to do that in just a few minutes. The links to those are in the description below. I'm Kelly Fager from MXHideout. Ride safe. Have fun.